Okay, this is a design video for RPS. It's a cover of how the design affects ship's performance, what the components mean, and how the combat mechanics work in a bit more detail. It's totally worth viewing this video. I'm actually going to cover all three of the combat mechanics in this. First I'll do a bit of a general thing, and then we'll go through each combat mechanic in turn, describe what the combat mechanic is, how it works, how the systems interact with that combat mechanic, and then I'll move on to the next one. Okay, so very general thing. This is the design screen. It can be accessed with the Q key or by tapping the design tab. On the screen you have your 5 component types, and you have buttons for adding to your design. Hull is basically armor. Weapons shoot and destroy other ships. Shields is armor, but it regenerates. Drives move your ship, and batteries supply power to shields and weapons. Clicking on these add the relevant type to the ship, and the 15 boxes there quickly display a ship design. The most general ones first: batteries. Battery supplies power to shields and weapons. You have small, medium and large. Small basically has small amounts of power, medium has more power, large has most power. It's a non-linear curve, so large batteries are not 3 times as efficient as small batteries, but they probably cost 3 times as much. Almost everything in the game is set in the user settings files. These can be viewed, these can be edited. They're just text files. If you play a game, everyone will use the host's files. So you don't have to change everyone's to be the same. That's a real problem. Whatever the host has got, everyone will use. In the future, that'll be codified, that will be compacted into settings, and then they can be distributed. But for now, text files. You also have drives. Drives move your ship. Small drives, medium drives, large drives. Small drives give small thrust, medium drives give medium thrust, large drives gives large thrust. The total of your thrust of your drives is used to move your ship, and the total mass of your ship works against that to slow it down. So the number of components determines your mass, and the size of the ship determines the mass. So as you go up the size brackets, as you go from being the very small ship to the large ship to the large ship to the biggest ship, you get extra mass simply for being a bigger ship. That's for the hull. This means that bigger ships, if you have 10 components, you need more than 10 thrust from your drives to match a 2-component ship with 2 thrust. Larger ships are generally slower. Essentially, drives and thrust work together. That gives you your total speed. We used to have a momentum system, but actually it's very awkward to use, it's difficult for the players, so we've got rid of it and we've gone for a much more simple movement system. Okay, hull, weapons and shields are largely determined by the combat mechanic you're using, so now we'll get into the combat mechanics. We'll start with the simplest one, which is traditional RTS mode. Traditional RTS mode, weapons work on a damage per shot. Shields have health and a regeneration rate, and hull has health. Seems fairly simple. Small hull, medium hull, large hull. Small hull has least hits, large hull has most hits. Nice and simple. Shields. All shields have the same total health. That's the total amount of damage they need to take before they go down. Damage is done to one shield at a time, starting on the first one added to the ship. And they have a regeneration rate. Small shields regenerate slowly, large shields regenerate much faster. Once enough damage has been done to a shield that its total health is overcome, the shield goes down and it won't come back up again. So in this, DPS is very important, and if you have multiple shields, they won't regenerate any faster. They will just have more overall shield health for the ship. Weapons. You have small weapons, medium weapons, large weapons. Small weapons have the highest DPS of all the weapons and fire very quickly, but their individual shot power is quite small, which means you have to survive a long time to get that DPS out, to get that damage done. Medium weapons fire half as fast as them and have a slightly lower DPS, but you get more damage right at the start, you get more damage in the middle. Survival is less of an issue with these weapons. And the large weapons, they have the lowest DPS of all, but they do a lot of damage in a very short period of time. Single shot is a lot of damage. This means that if you don't expect your ship to survive, then Type 3 weapons are the way to go. If you expect your ship to survive a long time, Type 1 weapons are the way to go. Type 1 weapons are cheapest and most efficient, but Type 3 weapons are good for crunch power. That's really all there is to a traditional RPS. It's very, very simple. Next we'll do rock, paper, scissors, RPS mode. This is the one that was the kind of original concept with the game. This really works on a rock, paper, scissors system. Shields and hull and weapons all count as rock, paper, scissors, and that's rock, paper, scissors. Rock beats paper, paper beats rock, scissors beats paper, rock beats scissors. If you fire a rock weapon at a paper shield, the paper shield will beat the rock weapon, the shield will not go down, and the weapon will do no damage. If you fire a scissors weapon at a paper shield, the scissors weapon will cut straight through the paper shield, it beats it, the shield won't stop the shot, so the shot will carry on to the next shield or hull, and the shield will go down and will not come back up again. In the case you fire a paper weapon at a paper shield, that's a stalemate. The shield will go down, but it will regenerate and will come up again, and it will come up again almost immediately before the weapon will fire again. So that's a stalemate. The weapon doesn't beat the shield will repeatedly absorb the weapon, but the shield won't be up to stop other shots. So that's that mechanic, and that works with rock, paper, scissors. So, as I said before, paper beats rock, scissors beats paper, rock beats scissors. And that works from weapons to shields and weapons to hull. With hull, it's the same thing, but hull doesn't have regeneration, but it can take more shots. In a stalemate, it takes a certain number of shots before it's destroyed. Where it's beaten, it just is destroyed, and where hull beats the weapon, the hull is not damaged, the weapon shot is stopped. This was the original concept for the game. This means it's very important to send out ships which are appropriately equipped to deal with your opponent. And then finally we will do tech mode. This is another slightly more conceptual combat mode. In this there is low tech, medium tech, high tech, or small, medium, large, doesn't really matter. Essentially, a weapon shot will drop a shield, but the shield will raise to block the weapon again immediately before the weapon fires. However, if the weapon is of a larger type than the shield, so if it's a type 1 shield and it's a type 2 or 3 weapon, the weapon's powerful enough to go through the shield. The shot will be stopped, but the shield will be destroyed, which means it will not come up again. The same thing happens with hull. Hull has a certain number of hits, usually 3. A weapon which hits the hull will take one of those hits off. If a larger weapon, a 2 or 3, hits the hull, it will go straight through the hull. This means that Type 3 weapons will go through Type 1 and 2 shields and Type 1 and 2 hull. Type 3 hull, Type 3 shields cannot be destroyed by any single weapon, but because the shield is down whilst it's regenerating, so the Type 3 weapon drops the Type 3 shield, before the Type 3 weapon fires again, the Type 3 shield will just come up. If another weapon is fired at that ship, the shield is down, is not there to absorb it, and it will go through. In this case, hull is a kind of survival technique. This makes your ships much more survival in a single combat, but shields really are the best attrition you can get, by a long way. Big weapons and big shields, big hull are extremely expensive. Currently they're set to 5 times more expensive in Type 1, so you get a lot less ships for your buck, but you'd use much less components than you would for those small ships, which means you can get them in the field quicker. So it's spending more energy for a short-term combat game against saving your energy for a longer-term combat game. Those are the 3 design systems, that's how they work. In all cases, all shields have to be damaged, and then all hull, and once a hit is received on a ship, where there is no hull to stop it and no shields to stop it, the ship is destroyed. I hope that makes the design and combat systems of RPS a bit more clear. Thank you very much.